Thank you, Commander. Officers, DEC members, guests, and fellow sons, welcome. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time than we normally do. I'm not going to go through a whole script of all the things that the Public Relations Commission usually does, and you all know what those things are. I'm not going to harp on the things that we would like you to do, that we always harp on what we want you to do. Instead, I'm going to first introduce the members of our commission. They are James Coates, Tim Van Patten II, Bill Clancy, Kevin Harrington, Joe Giudice, and Ken Kreitzer. What we're going to do here this morning is I'm going to introduce Ken. Ken is going to give us an update on some of the great things he has been doing, and he's also going to talk a little bit about some of the great things that maybe we can do to help him. And then I'm going to wrap up the commission report. So without further ado, I'll introduce Ken Kreitzer.
Morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you and tell you a little bit about what we've been doing at Sons of American Legion Radio. We had a big year. Helps when the Army football team goes 10-3 and wins the Commander-in-Chief Trophy in their bowl game. But I just want to start by saying I was a little late coming up here because we did a 7:10 segment yesterday morning on WVOX radio in New Rochelle. We had a West Point graduate, Army football player as it happens, Iraq war veteran, a captain, also served in Jordan, and he explained to me what it was like in 2013 to be in Iraq and to have to explain to his 30 privates who were in his platoon why they might not get paid the next week with the government shutdown of this year. So we talked about what happens to military spouses. Many of whom work at Army, work at bases, work at commissaries, work at all the things in and around the base that are government employees. So we just talked about that, the impact on soldiers of the government shutting down last night, which I'm sure the Legion's going to have a lot to say in the next couple of days. To give you an idea of what we've been doing, we've been growing we're kind of what you might call a multi-channel organization. We're kind of radio the way Radio City Music Hall is radio. We're out extensively on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have 1,500 videos on YouTube that we've done over the last 4 years. We do that because we'll cover an Army football game, we'll do 15 to 20 videos between all the pregame activity. We do highlights of the play. Every time Ahmad Bradshaw runs for a touchdown, we try to have that in our video. And then we cover the alma mater. The alma mater, it's a sacred tradition at West Point. They sing that after every game, preferably second, which is a tradition if they've won the game. And then we're in the post game to do interviews with the coach and the players. And so it's a good year. We hit 3.7 million impressions on our West Point football page, probably another 500,000 on our Sons page, where we put a lot of our veterans news and a lot of our veterans interviews that we do. We're also, as I said, out on Twitter. If you follow my LinkedIn page, which I encourage you to do, we put some of our veteran stories out there and some of our stories and videos that we do with support groups for the military, Legion people that we talk to. And so that part is going good. We've incorporated some reporters, a couple of retired Army officer friends, a couple of West Point grads. So we have reporters now in Texas, Colorado, Ohio, and Virginia, and Washington, D.C. to do reports on things like that I can't get to. We did go out this year to 2 road games. We went to Ohio State, where Army played Ohio State in front of 108,000 people. And in the third quarter, it was 17-7. Unfortunately, they had a missed field goal and a fumble, and Ohio State started playing like a top 10 program that they are. But it was kind of interesting in the post game. I had to find a way. A reporter told me how to get to the media room at Ohio Stadium, which, by the way, is circled by veterans memorials. almost on every portal there's a Veterans Memorial. And there's a beautiful new Veterans Plaza just across from the stadium that the team passes when they walk into the stadium each year. I'm the only media person from New York who came, and it's the quarterback Ahmad Bradshaw and the coach Jeff Munkin, and they hand me the microphone to ask the questions of the players and the coach. And because I've been doing it for 9 years and we go to practice every week, we've built really strong relationships. So on the big days, they're West Point's comfortable letting us talk to their players and to their officials. So it's a good day. By the way, when we went out to Ohio State, before the game, we visited the ROTC department. We interviewed a cadet and one of the officers there about what they do. And then we went over to the West Point pregame, what they call the Association of Graduates, and we interviewed the host of the event, who is an Army veteran. We interviewed a brigadier general who was kind of the official guest for the day. And then also we interviewed a woman veteran who had been on the track team at West Point and then served for 5 years in the Army. And we talked about her career and what she's done afterwards. So that's how we cover a game. We also went out to the Air Force Academy and we talked to a couple of Army veterans. We talked to a representative for Carson. And we were given an opportunity to talk to the Vice Superintendent, Colonel David Harris, I just asked for tell me about the Air Force Academy. I'm not as familiar with them. And he did about 10 minutes with us, and we did a nice video with that. So it was a way for us to tell the story of these important military educational institutions. And again, after the game, I'm out there. Army won that one 21-0. It was a great game for them. And we talked to the coach and the two captains of the Army team afterwards. But what I could really use help with is I don't have reporters in Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo. Important stories for us is to cover the Army National Guard. The Army National Guard's got 200 people right now in Eastern Europe, and we're working on doing a call-in from them. But if anyone would like to, there's lots of events. They just christened a Navy ship in Buffalo a month ago, a new littoral combat ship. And see, I would have loved to have a report from Tim if he went to it. And what we're trying to do with it, I just want to mention, we talked about American Legion Baseball for a second. The West Point baseball coach loves American Legion Baseball. He came out of the program in Rhode Island, and his father was a coach in American Legion Baseball. He hosted a tournament at West Point for, I think it was 8 American Legion teams on July 4th. So if you have a team that's interested, just contact the West Point baseball program. But he was a tremendous advocate. He was talking about the struggles they have now against players thinking about going to AAU teams instead of American Legion. But that's the kind of people we're able to talk to. We're also covering the debate team matches between the service academies, which is really neat. We kind of discovered that last year, that they have debate teams where 2 cadets from each school will debate a resolution. And we covered the match at Air Force, and we also covered the match before the Army-Navy game in Philadelphia. And the resolution there was, should the federal government implement choice as a program? And one team argued for, one team argued against that. But they were right on target for things that we're interested in. We're trying to build a presence and want to work with the American Legion Press Association. Kevin, I know, is here. But sometimes we come up with some pretty good material, I think, and there's a lot of other people out there who are doing the same thing, producing great articles and video, talking to veterans, talking to officials within the veterans community, and so forth. And we need to set up a place where you can send them up nationally. Like if I do a video that I think is meaningful beyond just our local area, it'd be nice if we could have a national YouTube page for either the Suns. In fact, well, I know we could get it there, but we need to have a coordination of, like, whenever anyone does kind of an article or a video that's beyond the local area, have a way to present that at a higher level, because that's how you really develop reach for more of these things. Another project I just want to mention to you, we cover some basketball too. I went to grad school at Iona, and they've made the NCAA tournament for the last 6 years, so they're really an interesting team. They won again last night. But they play their tournament in Albany, right down the street, downtown in the arena, the Metro Atlantic Conference, which is usually the first weekend in March. That's a great opportunity for any of our organizations to present a color guard. And all of those things are on television. The other event that's coming up, and we supplied a color guard 2 years ago to, is the NCAA Women's Regional. Will be in Albany later in March. Last time we tried to get a color guard. The only group that we could get a color guard, and this is for a game championship game that the University of Connecticut women's team played in. The only group, I called everybody in a few days. The only people who said yes were the Girl Scouts. And the Girl Scouts did a color guard for us in front of 7,000 people on the University of Connecticut's basketball team. The other project I want to just mention, we're working very hard. It's a slow, but we're turtles. We keep making progress slowly. Is at Arlington National Cemetery on Chaplain's Hill, Section 2. We donated the Jewish Chaplain's Monument in 2011. We are working now on a replacement of the Protestant Chaplain's Monument, which nobody got around to. The current monument, it was made of cement and is deteriorating, and we have a donation of a new piece of granite for that. We're also going to have a new plaque. The current one only honors Protestant chaplains through World War II, and so we're adding the names of 25 chaplains who died in service in Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, and post-9/11 conflicts. And if I ever, it's a story I like to tell, and I gave this talk at a conference in Washington 2 weeks ago. One of the great tragedies in American Army history was in the early days of the Korean War, where the Army troops were taken from Japan, where they were on kind of a garrison duty, not really ready, combat ready, put into Korea, and they got overrun in the early stages of the war. And there were base camps that were being tended to by chaplains, and they got overrun, and everyone at those base camps horrifically was either killed or taken prisoner as a POW. Well, there were 7 chaplains lost in that period, 4 of whom are still missing in action, and 2 of them are not mentioned on the plaques at Arlington. So we're going to take care of that. It's going to take us a little time. We got hit with a request from Arlington. Again, something I could use your help on is they want DD-214s on the 25 new names that we're adding, even though we have official biographies from U.S. military biographers. And but if anyone has time or has looked up DD-214s for a group, the challenge, of course, in that field was the loss of 10 million records in St. Louis in 1973 at the National Archives. And so it's hard to go back, and we're trying to ask for a waiver, and we're right in the middle of that process now. We're also proposing a walkway, which is a $500,000 project, which would make Chaplain's Hill accessible. Right now it's a 25-foot walk on grass, and we think a walkway will make it a national destination for everyone from scout groups to honor flights. And we're proposing it as an American Legion project, but we have interest from a lot of other veterans organizations. I know I'm over my time, but I just want to thank you for the chance to represent you. Whenever we go out to an event, we always wear suns, caps, and American Legion jackets. I always wear the 100th anniversary cap when I ever go out. And that's talking to a lot of people in the military and in the cadet community. And they see the American Legion, they know American Legion is out there and interested in supporting them. So anyway, thank you very much and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Ken. As you can tell, Ken keeps very busy. And the rest of our commission actually stays pretty busy. Again, I'm just going to wrap things up really quick. First of all, hopefully you're all familiar with our detachment website. Hopefully it's doing what it needs to do for all of you. If it's not, you need to let us know. The Liberty, we just issued the midwinter issue of the Liberty. We've left some at the front desk. I don't know if they're still around here, but there are some in print. We've issued them all to everybody. We ask that you please continue to send us information so that we can share the things that everybody does. We talked at the Fall DEC briefly about identifying some statewide media outlets that the Public Relations Commission can use on a statewide basis to supplement some of the things that hopefully you are locally trying to advertise. And so far we've identified 28 media outlets. These are larger newspaper groups and things like that that we've identified and contacted, and we're going to start sending them press releases of the things that we're doing on a statewide level. So whether it's essay contest, walkathon, et cetera, but you need to send us information so that we can send out those press releases and supplement you from the top down. In summary, I just want to say people will not come to the things that you are doing if you don't tell them what you're doing and why you're doing them. People won't participate in what you're doing if they don't know what you have done and what you can accomplish. And lastly, people won't join, specifically the Sons, if they are not aware of who we are, what we do, and what we can accomplish. So that really is what public relations is about. Everybody needs to take those three things under advisement, and please do the best you can. That concludes my report, and hopefully someone will make a motion so that I can go sit down.
We have a motion, do we have a second? In a second, we have a motion and a second.